famous.
Hey everybody, welcome. I'm excited to be sitting here with an amazing entrepreneur, someone who's led the charge in the digital marketing industry, a gentleman by the name of Clate, and probably many of you know he's the CEO of an industry leader called Infusionsoft. And so we're excited to have him here for an interview for an upcoming article on Entrepreneur Magazine's website, and excited to have him here to be able to share his wisdom about a brand new rebranding, right? So we're excited to be able to interview him for our Biz Famous channel and hopefully have him be on the Biz Famous show here in the future as we launch it.
All right.
Excited. But so Clate, tell us a little bit about, like, you know, a lot of people may already have heard of Infusionsoft. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can kind of give us the genesis, like the short story of Infusionsoft as far as like where it got started and where you got to today.
Yeah. So thanks. Great to be with you. When we started the business many years ago, we didn't have any ambition of building a big company. We were just a small business trying to help other small businesses do sales and marketing more effectively with the software that we created. And so we were doing that for a few years, and sometimes people would call it CRM software, customer relationship management software. And as we did it, we had this email marketing component to it, and we had an e-commerce component to it, and people started to go, hey, this is really effective stuff to help me manage my business better. And we started to see that the CRM software space was actually totally wide open for small business. In other words, Salesforce and other companies have been serving bigger businesses, but we loved helping small businesses. And so about 11, 12 years ago, we decided, you know what, we're going to go after it in CRM for small business, and we're going to revolutionize the way small businesses grow. That's the way we used to describe it, using this sales and marketing automation software. And so that's what we began doing about 12 years ago. After a few years of kind of running a small business, using the software ourselves, selling it to a bunch of other small businesses, we caught a big vision of what was possible and decided we were going to go for it.
Awesome. So maybe for those that don't know, like, you've had a tremendous amount of success up till this point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, how much of an impact would you say you've had on the small business community in terms of, being able to get your software and empowering them, the kind of effect that it's had on the small business community?
Well, I think really what happened was about 11 or 12 years ago, we looked around and that powerful sales and marketing automation software for small businesses didn't exist. And so we said, okay, we're gonna create that, and we're gonna lead the industry in this automation software. And at the time, there just really wasn't any competition. There was nobody else really doing it. You had to cobble together like Act software and some kind of email marketing and some kind of e-commerce to try to tie it all together. But really, it was very inefficient, and the automation was pretty weak. So our automation software that tied in all those components of sales and marketing and e-commerce, that was a really, really big deal. And now you see lots of people doing little pieces of that.
Okay.
And I think the impact that we have made, we've got a couple 100,000 people using our software today, and so that I like that impact a lot. It's really fun to have customers using your software. But I think it's really about what's happening for small businesses more broadly. And we're certainly not the only ones doing that. But I do think that up until Infusionsoft, you had to cobble together a bunch of different things, and that was really hard for entrepreneurs. So I think that the contribution we've made is that we've brought sales and marketing software into the grasp or the accessibility of small businesses in a way that it just didn't exist before. And that's not just us, that's a bunch of companies doing something similar to what we do.
So basically, we're sitting here in your headquarters here in Chandler, Arizona, and coming in, actually there was like, someone had like set out some rumor, I don't know where I heard this or picked it up, but like you guys had sold the building or something was like funny. So I come in and like there's no logo in your entryway anymore, and I'm like, maybe the rumors are true, right? So we're here on the eve, is that correct?
Yes.
Like tomorrow,
yes,
of a big announcement with Infusionsoft,
yep.
And it's actually something you guys even kept from me right before our interview, and I just found out that you have a new, do we want to call it a new product,
It's a new brand.
A new brand.
Yep.
Okay, and can you share with us the brand, and before you share the brand, maybe share with us why you are about to launch this new brand.
Yeah.
Like if Infusionsoft's doing so great and making such a great impact, like don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So maybe tell us why you're making this, I don't know if it's a pivot or a product.
It's just a new brand.
A new brand.
Yeah. And let me explain it. 11 or 12 years ago when we kind of caught the vision of what we wanted to do, we set out on what we call our Everest mission. And you might remember seeing the Everest mission, and it was all over here in the building. And it was a 10-year plan to become the leader in sales and marketing automation for small business. And that took us through the end of 2016. And so about 2 years ago, we got to the end of that and we were saying, okay, well, what's next? And we set out on our Mars mission. And that Mars mission is much bigger than what we were doing in sales and marketing automation. The Mars mission is to simplify growth for millions of small businesses worldwide by the year 2030. So we took on this new big mission, and in order to simplify growth, we needed to take our powerful software and make it more simple and more accessible for millions of small businesses. So in order to understand the rebrand, you have to understand the Everest mission that we did for 10 years and now what we have in our sights as we go toward the year 2030. And sometimes people will be like, we're sitting here at the beginning of 2019, really, Clate, 2030? And I would say, yeah, actually back in 2007 when we put together a 10-year plan, that seemed like an eternity,
right.
And it went like that.
Right.
And now here we are with this Mars mission out in front of us, and we've spent the last couple of years doing a bunch of product work and a bunch of work on the company to get us into a place to be able to serve millions of small businesses. We don't want to have 200,000 users. We want to have millions of users, and that requires something different. So that mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses worldwide is what started to lead us into maybe we need to be actually changing the name of the company, changing and sending a signal to the world of what we're up to. So that you have to understand the Everest mission and the Mars mission in order to understand, well, why would you consider changing your name? That's what drove it, is this mission that we have to simplify growth for millions of small businesses. So that's what drove it. You want me to tell you the meaning and the name?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's make this
do the reveal. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let me explain it. So running a small business is really hard. And most small businesses fail within the first few years. And those that don't fail, or actually all small business owners, it gets dark at times, and the thoughts of quitting or the urge and desire to quit is pretty strong. And we've always known this. We've experienced it ourselves. In fact, let me tell you my story with this. And, I think what you find is entrepreneurs everywhere have their story. This isn't just my story. So in the early days of Infusionsoft, we had been about we've been running the business for about 2 or 2.5 years, and it was really tough. And about 18 months in, we started using our software and the automation, and I realized, this is going to work. And I got out of my dark time of I just want to quit because it's so hard.
Right.
While I was there, my wife was not yet there. And I kept telling her all the time, hey, it's getting better, hon, it's getting better. And Charisse is an amazing, supportive spouse, and she went through, a really, really tough stretch as we were trying to get the business going. So a couple of years in, I'm telling her it's getting better, and she says, it's not getting better for me.
Right.
All right. It's great to hear that things are getting better at work, but we are we're dying, literally on the verge of bankruptcy and struggling like crazy at home. And she and I were pulling apart more and more as I was trying to get the business to work, and she was just running out of belief. So one night she said to me, okay, you have got to go get a real job. Now, I had heard this speech many, many times, and I'd always prevailed in persuading her to stick it out. We can do this.
One more day.
One more day. Yeah, we can do this. Well, this night I was not going to be successful at that. She was determined, and she was done. And
you sensed it was a different energy.
It was different. There were lots of tears from her and from me as we were trying to, as I was pleading with her to it's gonna work. And so she just said, I can't do it. You have to promise me you'll go get a job. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, well, maybe I can go work for a while and then come back around and rejoin my partners because I love this business and I think it's going to be successful. I believe it's going to be successful. But I promised her I would. So the next day I went into the office And I went and sat down much like this and started working with leads and customers and doing all the stuff that I did. And before I knew it, the day was over and it was time to go home. And I hadn't done any job searching whatsoever.
Right.
And, as often happens to entrepreneurs, the business just swallows them. And that day, as many days before that had happened, and I was driving home. And number one, I felt awful that I hadn't done what I said I was going to do. And number two, I was really worried about what was going to happen with Charisse. Because I felt like, I'd been given an ultimatum the night before, and now I might have made my last mistake here. So I walk into the house, and I was very, to say nervous is an understatement.
Can we say afraid?
I was afraid.
You were afraid.
I was very afraid. And I walked into the kitchen, and Charisse's back was to me. And she turned around, and she said, "Did you look for a job today?" And I said, "No." And she walked toward me, and she gave me a huge hug, and she said, "Just keep going. It's going to be okay. Just keep going." And I was like, wow, what happened, But she was encouraging me and saying, it's going to be all right. Just keep going. So that story is not just my story. That story is entrepreneurs all over the world have that experience over and over and over, frankly. And our message to the world is keep going. Keep going. Keep serving. Keep growing. And that's why the name of the company is Keap.
Wow, that is epic. Another 4-letter word.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the moment, and you kind of take me back into a movie that I love, Rocky.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because here's one of the challenges I find that entrepreneurs have in their life is they don't have these epic moments of this that you're just kind of describing, where it's like you go through struggles, you get wins, and then and there's not this climactic moment.
Right.
And it's so great to hear that you have this moment where Adrian opens her eyes.
It's funny you say this because I actually tell people sometimes, I'm like, that was I know the Yo Adrian moment,
right?
because I felt it, and there's something that is hard to describe. It's hard to put in words when you're pulling apart from your spouse, trying to make the business work. And nearly every entrepreneur goes through this, unfortunately, where you're struggling and you're saying the marriage or the business. And I knew I wanted the business to not trump the marriage. I knew that for me it was no. And I had said over and over, the marriage first, my marriage first, my family first. And yet here I was in that moment being confronted with it. And I like every entrepreneurial bone in my body was saying, this is going to work.
Right.
But she was done. And it was fair that she was done because I was delusional in the way our house and family was working. I was so buried by the business. So I know what that felt like. And when she hugged me that way and said, just keep going, I was like, okay, I felt like I could go do anything. I was like, okay, we can do this.
That's right. When you go to Mickey and you're out of the street and you start running, right?
Yes.
Catch the chicken.
Yeah.
So, did you ever ask her, by the way, what did she have? Was that? I mean, that could have been planned. Was did you ever have a conversation after that about why she did that?
I did. It's very personal to me. It's very personal to her. I will just simply say. She had she has a lot of faith, and she had a very spiritual experience that day that everything was going to be fine, and she just needed to keep going.
That's fantastic.
When that, so she shared it with me, and we talked about it, and again, lots of tears, different kind of tears this time.
Right.
But lots of tears and just a lot of gratitude and appreciation, and then partnership and feeling like, okay, we can do this. And Charisse is an amazing partner. She's been, that was nearly 15 years ago, and she's been an incredible partner. And we've been through, thick and thin, ups and downs. And by the way, there's never this mythical thing. You get to a certain point, and then it's all easy.
Right.
It's hard.
I'm the champ, and I'm the champ forever.
Right. But what is different is you're not worried every day whether you're going to survive.
Right.
That's a different thing, and we were in that place. And got through that, and really that's really our message to entrepreneurs is that you have to keep going, you have to keep serving. Our mission is to simplify growth. Well, Keap in a word really represents the essence of that grit and tenacity. It's what's required in small business success. You never find a successful business owner that hasn't been through a version of what I just described.
Right.
And yet most people quit. Most people, there's a reason why over 80% of small businesses fail within their first few years, because it's so hard that you listen to the doubters that say, go get a real job, and by the way, they sometimes have really good reasons to doubt, right?
Right.
It's like my wife was very rational in saying, hey, you need to go get a real job. So I'm not.
The numbers don't lie.
That's right. That's right. But that grit and passion and drive that are necessary, that's what we're calling out in Keap. That's what we're honoring. And our purpose, as you know, is to help small businesses succeed. And so in a word, we're saying, this is small business success. Keep at it. Keep working. Keep going. Keep serving. Keep growing. So that's the company. We spell it Keap so we can completely own it.
Okay.
Own it in every way. And it's if as you see the brand, you'll see it's very simplified. It's very clean. It's very much about growth. It's the green is all about growth, and you'll also see it's a pretty cool thing in our word mark. The K is very distinctive, very ownable. The way we did it. Yes, actually.
I was wondering
That's
what
the
that.
K.
Okay.
And it's the little arrow in there because you see that in our software. You see how the arrow shows the way to growth and shows the way to small business success.
That's amazing. So Infusionsoft, as it is, that existing brand, is complementary to Keap. And
yes.
How do you plan on being able to support the growth of both brands? And how is it so let's say to help reduce any kind of confusion, a small business owner out there, they're like, do I use Infusionsoft or do I use Keap? And how do I know? So how do you plan on sustaining, in essence, the growth of two brands, which I have a story I'll share with you after the interview about sustaining not to your level, right?
Yeah.
But maybe you can share a little bit more.
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
unified under the Keap brand.
Okay.
So we have two products. One is Keap, and the other is Infusionsoft by Keap.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll refer to that as Infusionsoft. But two products, the Keap product, the Infusionsoft product, all under the brand of Keap. And what we do is CRM software. It's customer relationship management software. Our Infusionsoft product is the powerful pro product. We created that product years ago. It's the very powerful solution, and that will remain in our product lineup, the pro tool that is very powerful.
Okay.
Right? What we did with Keap is we created a much simpler, easier way for small businesses to get many of the same benefits. And what are those benefits? It's to get organized and to systematically move your clients through the flow of your business. That turning those leads into happy clients. That's what we do in our software. Small businesses everywhere want that. We focus on service businesses, and for service businesses who don't need all of the power of automation and all of the pro tools where they can go in and customize and configure and need all of the flexibility to manage their campaigns in a bunch of different ways, they want a more basic approach to how you do that. That's what Keap is. And so, I like to say, well, we built the pro product first and then built the standard product. That's really what we did. The pro product is Infusionsoft and the standard product is Keap. Now, Keap is very effective. It's very helpful in getting you organized and systematically moving leads through the flow of your service business. But if you want more customization and more control and more power, then you should get Infusionsoft.
So I think at Stephen Covey you talked about begin with the end in mind, and kind of work your way backwards. Right. So basically, you created the larger, more powerful component, and then created a stepping stone so that people maybe who need a step can take their business to the next level by using Keap to start.
That's right. And we heard the market for a long time telling us, hey, we want we love Infusionsoft. We want a lighter, easier version of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what we did with Keap. We created a much lighter, easier way for people to do smart client management. That's what we refer to it as, because most small businesses don't call it CRM software. Smart client management, that's what we do.
Okay.
And that's what we did in creating the product Keap. And now Infusionsoft by Keap is the other product that fall under the brand of Keap.
So you kind of did a little bit of something akin to a big company that most people never heard of called Google did. And that's where basically they established this powerful search engine, and then later launched Alphabet as a holding company, and Google is one of the products.
That's
so
It's a pretty common approach when you're taking a bigger vision and you're seeing a bigger thing to do. You've got this product that's brought the company to a certain place, and you don't want to leave that. You're not wanting to move away from that. You're wanting to have that be part of a bigger product portfolio that's under a unifying brand, and that's what we did.
So one of the things to ask some tough questions, right?
Yeah.
Is that you're now in this process of supporting two different brands that are very complementary, right? That they work together. But
I would say two products with one brand. That's the way I would describe it.
Okay, two products with one brand. And you've traditionally, over the last few years, have been very successful in creating a community, right? Not so much we offer a system, but also a community where you have like a partner community, you have like a user community,
right?
And so, a tool is only as good as the artist that wields it, right? And so maybe some of the people that have been with you along the journey for the growth of Infusionsoft, what kind of feedback are you getting from them about this new version and what it means, and and do they need to be concerned about like the ongoing support of the Pro system because you're like trying to support both entities?
Yeah, totally. So, if you're a power user and you love all those Pro tools, then you might look at the Keap product and say, well, that's not for me.
Right.
That's okay. If you so what we hear from users and partners is the people who really wanted a more simple solution, they love it. They love Keap. The customers and partners who want that Pro, they're saying, hey, don't forget about us.
Right.
We want to make sure we're getting the features. So now let me be totally candid with you. When you're getting a new product out, it takes an unfair share of resources to get that done. So the Pro users and partners felt a little bit of that sting while we were getting the new product out. And we said at the end of last year, we said, okay, we've now got the product into a place where we're getting ready to launch the brand, and we've got a product into a place where we don't need to have it take its unfair share of resources anymore. Let's take a more balanced approach on the two products. And over the last 60 days or so, partners and customers on the Pro product have been saying, okay, let's keep these, no pun intended, let's keep these improvements going. That's right. By the way, I love that. It comes out in everything. It's beautiful. So I think it's fair to say that you'll see a more balanced approach in features and updates and enhancements to both products. Whereas 2018 and even 2017 had kind of an unfair share of resources on the new product, the Keap side of things, which was necessary for us to get that product out to market and open up the market to be able to serve these service providers that don't necessarily want to go in and do a bunch of building with the power tools.
So a few years ago, one of the things that I know a lot of people enjoyed about Infusionsoft was an event called Icon.
Yeah.
Which was basically
I enjoyed it.
Your conference, right, for Infusionsoft users, customers, partners, to again build that community.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this announcement that Icon is being sunsetted, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are like, is Infusionsoft in trouble? And suddenly there's these companies and competitors that are kind of getting some market share, and so some people in the automation and sales, software space are kind of getting nervous. And then so maybe you want to tell us a little bit about why did you stop with Icon, and now it's a new event that's under new leadership called SuccessCon. We actually connected there last year. And then how do you address the folks that would say, hey, you guys have been market leaders for a long time, and now you're at a place where maybe people think you're vulnerable because more companies have gotten market share in that space?
Yeah, great questions. We stopped doing Icon because we needed to put our resources into product. That's why we stopped doing it, and it was absolutely the right decision. We couldn't have launched the new product, which made it possible for us to launch the new brand. We couldn't do that if we were still running Icon. Icon takes a tremendous amount of resources. So if you go back, remember the Mars mission kicks off early 2017. We do Icon in the spring of 2017, and then we say, okay, we're not doing Icon anymore because we've got to focus the resources on the product so that we can simplify growth for millions of small businesses. The other thing I would say is when you're serving more of an early adopter market, people will leave their small business and come get on a plane and spend a week at a conference, the better part of a week at a conference. As we were serving more and more small businesses, a smaller and smaller percentage of our base was coming to the conference. And we recognized that it's a little bit of an early adopter trait to go to conferences like that. Most small businesses aren't wanting to leave their business and their families for that long of a time.
Right.
So it's a combination, when we just decided not to do it, it was a combination of resource allocation and focus on the products to serve the Mars mission, as well as an acknowledgement that most small businesses don't want to take that much time away from their company, and we needed to figure out better ways to help our small businesses grow. Now, that's about Icon. And I can tell you, it was a smart decision. That was a very good thing to do.
Okay.
The other reason we did that is we wanted to have partners pick up that slack and take on those events. And Box Out Marketing began, they grabbed the baton and said, hey, we want to do a big conference. And so they created SuccessCon. I spoke at it last year. It was a great event where we had several hundred of our customers that were there, and a partner put it on. And we had a handful of people from product and a couple of executives that went in. Very efficient for us to be able to reach that many customers and have a partner put on that event. And so we encourage partner events instead of one big annual Icon. We encourage partners to put on events. And then we also do an annual event called PartnerCon, which happens to be coming up here soon. And that's the event where we have hundreds of partners come into town who really focus on, okay, how do we help small businesses be successful using the platform that Keap offers. So that's, a little bit of the rationale of why we did it, a little bit of how it kind of lives on through partners in a much more efficient and better way, I believe, for customers, partners, and for the company. And then your last question, okay, what about competitors? And what about Infusionsoft that led the market in powerful sales and marketing automation? And what's going on now? Well, what's going on is the bigger vision we have to simplify growth for millions of small businesses, and that's not with the most powerful sales and marketing automation you can get on the market. So we want to continue to offer powerful sales and marketing automation with our pro product, Infusionsoft, but we also want to lead the market of CRM for small business in a different way that's been done. And that's not something competitors are doing effectively. So we are absolutely leading that bigger market in that opportunity. And I guarantee you, in several years down the road, we'll be talking about how now a bunch of competitors are following around what Keap is doing in CRM software for small business. That's what we're up to. And it's a redefinition of CRM for small business. We call it Smart Client Management. And it's helping small businesses to get organized and deliver personalized service and close more business by systematically moving their clients through the flow of their business. That's what our Keap software does. That's what we've been up to. Put it this way: the smarts in Infusionsoft are supplied by the customer and the partners, right?
Right.
To know what to do comes from a customer who's more of a power user and a pro user, or a partner. The software needs to do more of that on its own, and that's what Smart Client Management does. And then our partners overlay that and help the customers get the most out of Keap. So that's what we've been up to. The reason why people might look at it and say, hey, how come you're not as bold in the sales and marketing automation, this power tool where you've got a bunch of competitors? Well, we created that market, we led that market, and now we're leading in the small business CRM market with Smart Client Management.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we connected, I think, last year at SuccessCon, which was a great event. I give credit to Tyler Garns for putting together an amazing event.
Yeah.
Right? On such short notice, because I think he had 3 months prep, right?
Yeah.
Between the day that announced and hey, we're putting together an event.
Yes.
And you spoke there, and one of the things that you talked about was a very unique experience that you had walking on the beach. And so I would love it if you would retell that story shortly.
Oh,
and then you talked about 3 things, 3 tips, right? Because you talked about this epiphany moment earlier in the interview with your wife. And then you talk about 3 tips that all entrepreneurs can learn from that can help them be able to navigate challenges moving forward. So maybe you can share with our audience a little bit about
I'll tell you
that walk on the beach.
I'll tell you the story. You might have to jog my memory a bit on the tips, but I think I remember. So I had just come off of a spring break trip with my family down in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, Punta Mita. And we were on the beach. Sharice and I were having this nice romantic stroll on the beach. All the kids were back at the condo, and we were walking along the beach. And way out in the distance, I saw some people and a dog, and didn't think a thing about it. And Sharice and I kept walking. And then when we were about 100 yards away, I saw clearly there were a few people and this dog that was kind of running around him, and didn't think too much. But then as we took a few more steps, all of a sudden the dog broke from that group and started running at us. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? And as the dog got closer, I realized it was a pit bull. And Sharice and I were walking along the beach, and I was like, all of a sudden I got afraid. I was like, whoa, this pit bull is running at us. The owner or whoever had it on a leash back was way back there. And as the dog was getting closer, I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I started to back up, and it came and it lunged at me. And the only thing I could think of was to hit it. so I kind of, but this was not a Rocky moment to me. This was not very, I'm positive if there were video footage of this, we would all laugh at me. This was not like some bold, amazing move. It was like I'm backing up, and in pure self-defense, I just swung at this dog, and it had its mouth open, and I kind of got it along the side, and it kind of knocked it down, and then I was backing up, and just as it got up again, the owner whistled and called it off, and it took off running back. And I was like, I was sitting there going, oh my gosh. And my wife, who
gave you another big hug?
Oh no, she is very afraid of dogs. She was like, what the heck? I mean, it was so weird. Like, just like that, I was on this beach and all of a sudden getting attacked by a dog. But what it did is what I shared at SuccessCon with that group of small business owners, customers, I talked about fear, and I talked about what happens when you get gripped by fear and you don't face the challenges that are in front of you. And so I've written about this in Conquer the Chaos. I've talked about this a lot. And I think one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is we are afraid of certain things, and we don't admit it, we don't own up to it, and those fears end up controlling us and causing us all kinds of challenges. So I talked at that event because it had just happened, and I talked about how the fear sometimes causes us to not face the realities and not take on the challenges that we need to address in order to improve our business. And so I talked about how entrepreneurs can face that in terms of their own selves, of how they're holding back the company. I talked about how their employees and conversations where they're maybe not having the conversations they need to have, and they're just sort of skirting around the issues, or other problems that they're having, whether it's with customers or the product or their sales or marketing or whatever that case may be. But basically business operational issues, employee issues, and then yourself. That's what I talked about.
So one question that every entrepreneur faces doing something new. A new journey, a new product, a new service line, a new brand.
Yeah.
And you being like a very visible company with highly visible investors.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So moving ahead in your mission to Mars, what's your biggest fear?
Gosh. As I look up and look at my sign on my door that says no ego, no fear, I really try to live by that. And yet, I think there are times where you feel afraid. So I don't know, like my biggest fear would probably be not being able to achieve the mission that we're up to. We've been doing this for a long time, and we're dead serious about simplifying growth for millions of small businesses worldwide. So, just not being able to do that sucks. I really want to do this. So, that's probably, but I try to not live or be governed by fear. I try to really, I want to understand what it is that sometimes holds us back, and then face it and tackle those fears.
So last question of the day, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you bet.
Especially with everything you have going on with the launch of Keap.
And by the way, when you walked in my door, you said, "So you said you're afraid? Are you nervous about the launch?" And I was like, "No, I'm totally excited. I truly am not. We've been on this journey for 9 months. We've brought our employees along. We brought our partners along. We brought our board. We had a board meeting last week, and it was awesome. I mean, they'd seen it before, but this time they got to see it. And it's, when you see the essence of the brand and what we're really talking about, that encouragement to business owners, and you see the commercial we're doing around this, and you see the work we're doing, this is something that we're going to be filling up this vessel with brand equity for a long time. And I think it's a message that small business owners need to hear. And so I don't have any fear about it. I'm totally excited about it. I know for people, the first time they hear it, they're like, wait, what? Give it time. It will settle in. And when you see the simplicity and the power of that brand, it will be something that we can live into for years.
So as you launch Keap, right, and launching the pro version of, which is Infusionsoft, Infusionsoft by Keap?
That's right.
Okay, getting it here.
You got it.
Right. Is there anything that you can reveal or hint at about something that's going to give you a competitive edge? Because, you know, we have artificial intelligence,
sure.
AR, VR, like technologies is like just rampantly like growing and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you have, with what you know and the research you've done, anything that you want to share with our audience about like maybe some functionality or things that are coming here around the corner?
Yeah, you know, I think the key thing for smart client management is you've got to lead and guide the customer, our customer of the software. You have to lead and guide them on what to do with their client, and that's the key to it. And so I'm just really excited about how the tools that we're giving small business owners to manage their clients more effectively, to help these the things we're doing to help our service provider customers serve their clients better. Because when you get right down to it, small businesses grow through referrals. Marketing is great, makes a big difference, but most small businesses aren't marketers. They grow by delivering a great service. But when they're disorganized and they're dropping the ball and they're not able to follow up effectively, it's really difficult for them to deliver that great service and get referrals. So what I would tell you is the work we've been doing and the work we continue to do is to make it easier and easier for small businesses to grow by delivering great service. And that's really what the way that we are pointing is you'll see the arrow in the software, you'll see that we're showing our customers what to do to grow their business, to serve their clients great and grow their business. Because it really is about keep going, keep serving, keep growing.
Awesome. Well, Clate, I really appreciate your time. And again, thank you for hopefully what was an inspiring interview. Like, I just love that moment with your wife. That's amazing. And I think that a lot of small business owners will appreciate you being transparent about that, because I think we live in this kind of like society of like fast success. Like everybody's like, good job, because you like the unicorn companies that people read about and the Ubers and massive like overnight success stories. And so it's great when people are able to share like the real hard work and the journey along the way. So thanks so much for your time today, Clate.
You bet. Happy to do it. Thank you for having me. Thanks
so much. All right, well, we'll see you on another video soon. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, and we'll connect soon. Thanks so much.
Biz Famous.